Right, so I'll be calling on our host, who is going to do the honors of inviting all our panelists. All right. So she is a cybersecurity professional and a STEM advocate. She holds a degree in cybersecurity from the Federal Air Force Institution of Technology, Kaduna. And also she's a pioneer ambassador of the Cyber Girls Africa Fellowship and an alumni fellow of the Internet Society Youth Ambassador Fellowship Program. Her expertise cuts across cyber intelligence, education and awareness, internet freedom and digital security for civil society, organization and at-risk groups. Please, with one round of applause, make welcome Nanbaan. Please, a round of applause for Nanbaan, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Nanbaan. All right.
Okay, no problem. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Are you excited to be here? Thank you for coming for CyberFest. We're so excited to have you here. This session's topic is changing the negative narrative of African youth. And on this session, we have 4 panelists. Myself as the host, and I'll be introducing the remaining 3. So, to backtrack, the first person I'll be calling here is Olumayowa Akinkuehinmi. Please put your hand across for him. Mayowa is a DevOps. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, he needs no introduction. We all know him. He's our boss. He's our sponsor. All my Twitter people, please clap for him. Okay. So yes, Mayowa is a DevOps at Engage Messaging. He's an all-round tech enthusiast who has led deployments at 4 subsea cable landing stations across West Africa and Portugal as a senior subsea network engineer. He transitioned in submarine optical network sector after completing training at the Siena Learning Lab in London and the Subsea Optical Networking Engineering Summer School, co-founded by Google and Optica in Finland. After his career as an access network engineer, he has also overseen deployment for providers such as Google, Meta, Microsoft, Orange, Sonatel, MTN, Global Connect, and BBC, facilitating the transfer of their traffic between data centers in West Africa and Europe. Welcome, Mayowa. Thank you. So the second person on my panel that I'll be calling out now is Mr. Patrick Essien. Now, Mr. Patrick is a professional cybersecurity analyst with over 20 years of experience in electronic security protection, access control, and fire safety. He's passionate about keeping individuals and organizations safe from cyber threats. He's well-versed in using cybersecurity tools such as Splunk, the MITRE framework, and more to identify and mitigate risks. He's also committed to sharing his knowledge with others and creating educational curricula that help professionals develop their skills in cybersecurity. Besides this, he's a content writer, spreading awareness about importance of good cyber hygiene, and he believes that education is the key to protecting individuals and organizations from cyber threats. Welcome, Mr. Patrick. Okay. Now, the final panelist, we have an amazing woman, Ijeoma Onwuka. Please clap for her. She comes to the stage. So Ijeoma is a seasoned social media and community manager. She's leveraging over 2 years of expertise in nurturing vibrant and sustainable communities for both tech startups and nonprofits. Initially trained in accounting, she kicked off her professional journey as an auditor at KPMG Nigeria, subsequently transitioning into tech. She's serving as a community manager at GDG Lagos and Right Tech Hub. She is dedicated to fostering engaging environments tailored to developers, technical writers, and tech enthusiasts alike. With a passion for facilitating connections and fostering growth, she thrives in the intersection of technology and community engagement. Please clap for everybody here. Okay, so welcome everybody once more to our session. Like I said earlier, the title of our session is Changing the Negative Narrative of African Youth. In the course of today's experience, we've heard a lot of people, we've heard some of the speakers talk about how Nigerian youth are perceived. And if we're talking about stereotypes, we're talking about misconceptions. Personally, and I know that a lot of us have examples here about misconceptions and stereotypes we have gone through. Good, bad, negative, positive. One for me is being a cybersecurity professional. I find myself in many situations where they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I simplify it and say, I'm into tech. And they're like, what do you do in tech? And I say, oh, cybersecurity. I was like, hey, Yahoo girl, Yahoo girl. Now, it may not be a negative misconception per se, but it is a misconception. And the same goes with African youth. We're talking about where people see us as poor, uneducated, and they see us as fraudsters. Now, those are three negative things combined that we are popularly known for across borders. My first question is going to be, I'm going to need you to give me situations or personal stories where you have been stereotyped in professional settings, across border, and even in Nigeria. So let's start with Ijeoma, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, well, I feel like since I joined tech, I've experienced some stereotypes. When I was working with KPMG, it was different. You could easily tell people, I'm an auditor, I work with a big four, and they'll be like, wow, 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 now they count our money, blah, 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 those type of things. But since I joined tech as a community manager, whenever I tell people I'm a community manager, they'll be like, what is that? What do you do? And this one, you're carrying laptop, come and teach me work. I get people telling me that all the time. Even our gate man in where I stay has reached out to me one day. I was like, Madam, you're always carrying laptop. Come and teach me this thing. So I'm like, that's not what I do. So I always find myself explaining to people what I do all the time, and they still don't get it. Sometimes, because I work from home, I work with companies abroad, so I'm always indoors. Sometimes I work during their time zone, which means I have to stay awake. I've had my neighbors talk about me, say probably she moves at night, conversations like that, because I'm always inside my room. So they keep wondering, what's a young girl always doing inside her room? She doesn't go to work. She just comes out to throw her trash, go to the gym, go shopping, and that's it. So they feel like there's somebody there bankrolling me. Or maybe midnight I'll just sneak out and go run my business and come back. So these are some of the stereotypes I've experienced so far.
Thank you very much. Please, can we hear from Olumayowa?
Okay, thank you, everyone. So stereotype for me personally has been, okay, so there was a time in my life I was traveling a lot because of work, and so I flew into an airport one day, and someone just came to meet me randomly. You're from Lagos? I said yes. So can you come with me? So I went with him, and next thing, can I have your laptop?
Sorry, they can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. So it was like, can I have your laptop? So I gave him my laptop, told him to take off my jacket, take off my shoes, take off my socks, took everything with him, and it was cold, it was winter. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? He said, I should just relax. So he took key for a while. Okay, he came back again. He said, can I have your passport and your boarding pass? I said, yeah, sure, you can. I mean, I think it was about 4 a.m. in the morning. I gave it to him, he took it away. He said, okay. So he came back, I think about 30 minutes later, and I was trying to connect to somewhere else. So came back about 30 minutes later. I was like, how do you fund your trips? I said, does that really matter? How I fund my trip, does that really matter? I said, okay, where are you traveling to? What are you going to do? I said, I have a lab session where I'm going to, I mean, I don't want to mention the airport, but I still have PTSD from the airport here now. So was like, what are you going to do where you're going to? I said, I'm actually going for a lab session, and you can talk to them. But this particular country I'm going to is not somewhere I'm new to. Somewhere I've been traveling to for years, and so it was like, okay, no problem. It's coming. So the next thing he just came back, was like, oh, yeah, he said, Lagos, yeah? Okay, your boarding pass. Oh, you bought your ticket 2 days ago. Why? I was like, I didn't know I was making this trip. It was like impromptu. So he said, okay, no problem. They are going to have to subject me to a drug test. And I have to sign some certain documents like that. And I was confused, like, guy, why?
But did you do the test?
Yeah, I had to. So the funniest part was when I was going to go through the drug test, they told me to sit down somewhere, left me alone. They just went and came back and said, okay, I need to take off my jeans. So while they told me to take off my belt and take off my jeans, the button on my jeans now flew off. So when it flew off, when it was time to go into the scanner to carry out the test, so there was a particular metal holding the button. The metal was not exposed. So when I go into the scanner, it just showed red here. I was like, what's going on? You just spoke their language and okay.
I'm sure they were satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, oh, this one, no worry, we don't catch you. And so there's something I do when I travel. I usually travel with 2 laptops. I travel with my personal laptop and my work laptop because, I mean, my office pays for roaming and everything for me, so I'm always on the move. So the guy said, oh, they need to carry out the drug test. They did everything they wanted to do. They didn't say anything. I said, okay, no problem. They said I have to go through security again. When I went through security, so probably because they didn't clear me, when I went through security again, the whole thing the whole red mark just came again. They're like, oh, no, this time around. So it was another team entirely. They now took me in, oh, this guy started wearing gloves. They had to start doing a lot of things. Like, God, why am I going through all this? So after I got done with that whole drama, and I went to where I was meant to board my flight to my destination, and they were like, oh, sorry, the flight left already. I was like, so what do I have to do? They said, okay, next available flight, they'll put me on next available flight, blah, 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 blah. But can I call my host, who I'm going to meet, where I'm traveling to? So I was like, yo, this is not even 6 a.m. in the morning. Why would I call them that? Like, maybe they'll have to hold me down here till morning. I was like, well, what have I done now? Like, the woman just came, like, okay, you know what? Take this new boarding pass, you can go, run. There's another flight about to leave, run. So that was how I was able to get on that flight. So most of my stereotyping has actually come from traveling a lot. Even in Nigeria, I've actually experienced stereotyping in Nigeria. So there was a time I was going on holidays, and I mean, I was working a lot, back to back. I was working between Cote d'Ivoire and a bunch of other countries. So while I passed immigration and the likes, past immigration, then you pass NDLA. The NDLA woman asked me that, come here. I said, okay. She was like, what do you do? I said, I work. She said, okay. I should bring my passport. I'm like, what's your business with passport? Passport concerns immigration. What's your business with my passport? She collected my passport. Kilo wakiri. I was like, I don't understand. Like, kilo wakiri. I was like, so I'm asking, what do you do? What do you do for a living? And I said, okay, so I'm a submarine network engineer. So like, what does that mean? So I mean, that was what I didn't want to explain in the first place. So, I mean, something that happened a lot of times, and I tell people a lot that Nigeria has bad PR. I mean, Africa has bad PR generally. We have a lot of bright minds in Nigeria, Africa. I mean, I've met a lot of Africans out there when I travel and be like, oh, guy, you're so smart. I mean, when I talk to them, like, guy, but when we look at the index of cybercrime in the world, Nigeria is not even, I think as at few days I checked, Nigeria is just number 5, and I'm not even sure of that ranking, so, because, yeah, you understand. I mean, when you hear about cybercrime, it's just, okay, Nigerians are doing Yahoo, and I understand, but we're talking about ransomware and the likes. Nigeria has not even got to that level already, so, I mean, it's just my...
Thank you very much. Patrick, please, do you have any brief example? Can you hear him?
Whoa. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me up here. I think my experience is close to Mayowa's. Um, I've traveled a lot. So I've traveled, within the African, continent and West African sub-region as a whole. And I think I have two very bad experiences. One was I'm going to call the place because, well, one, we're talking about African youth here. And when people see a young person that is moving around or trying to find something to do, they tend to stereotype this thing of, especially when you have the Nigerian passport, because I think that is what I've experienced the most. When they see my passport, the green passport, they tend to put you on one side, scrutinize you, and then, so this experience actually, the crazy one that made me even think of transitioning from that aspect of my life was one time I was traveling, I was going to work for UNICEF, and that was in Niamey, in Niger. And before you work for the UNICEF, you need to tender your passport, your documents. They prepare a document for you to move. We call it, okay, maybe let me leave that, like outstation, going outstation. And so I got to the capital from Nigeria. I went to the UNICEF office. We had our meetings and everything. So I was supposed to move to Agadez. There's like a state, in Niger. I've been to almost all the states in Niger to work for UNICEF, UNDP, and the rest. But that project was for UNICEF, and I was supposed to go to Agadez. So when I got to, every state you get into in that country has what we call a frontier, like a border, with this very big, thing. And when you get in there, they tend to check you. So when I got to the frontier, that wasn't my first time, actually. I've been there, But on this particular occasion, I arrived there from the coach on a Sunday around about 4 p.m. And we got to the frontier. They told us, they come in the vehicle, first of all, into the coach, and then they tell you, passport. That's like in Francais, in French. And you tender your document. So I give them my passport. Immediately they see green, Nigerian. They put it aside. Then, they take care of it. So they said, okay, we should come down. I know that's not my first time. I have a letter from UNICEF, that exempts me with my equipment from tax and everything, because they're the taxi for everything. So I got to the office. The chef, Gendarmerie, that was there was asking questions. They pretend like they don't speak English or they don't understand English. And yeah, exactly, so that they can exploit you or treat you anyhow. And back then, my French wasn't very good. I used to have an interpreter, Bashir. But Bashir, sometimes plays pranks too, So on that trip, I went alone. I had my French dictionary with me. I was practicing little French. And when we got there, they had a lot of young chaps, about like 20 to 30 of them too. They had them on one side. So those of us that had the Nigerian passport, we were just on one side. And then they started checking. When they checked, they asked questions. I responded in Anglais, in English the best way I could. And I tried to say the other ones in French that I could. What are you here for? For what? Who you coming to see? Chef d'agence. Chef d'agence is the state manager for UNICEF in Agadez. Where are you going to be staying? The hotel. UNICEF has booked a hotel for me. But just because of that passport, they didn't believe. They thought I was like a scammer. And then they thought I was going to travel like these guys that travel through Libya, because Agadez is a route, So the next minute, they started, the guy sees my passport, put it under one place. So I was like trying to explain. Immediately I brought out the document that exempted me from tax, the document from UNICEF that had my data page of my passport and everything, just in case security check. And the guy just tore the thing. I'm telling you, the guy was mad. Sorry to use that. The guy just tore the thing, and I was beginning to get scared. And these guys, the more of this gendarmerie, the more you try to talk to them, the more agitated they get. So sometimes from my experience with traveling and interacting with them, I tend to like calm. Don't talk when they're talking, because especially the Tuareg ones that have like Arabs and whatever, they get so mad when you argue with them or try to talk. So I was calm, and I was trying to ping, the chef d'agence, because it was on a Sunday. And pinging the chef d'agence, he really doesn't respond immediately because it's the chef d'agence. You have other contacts, other IT guys that you're supposed to, but I know if anything gets tough, he's the one that has, because they respect them so much. So this guy tore the document, and I sent a message to Philippe. Philippe is the ICT guy in Niamey, and then I sent the same message to the chef d'agence, waiting for one of them, to respond and everything, that I was in a mess and everything. Do you know what this guy did? The next one, he said he wanted 5 million from the money that I've stolen. 5 million is 50,000 francs, but they call it million. Any one of their thousands is, 5 million. I told him, no, I didn't have that, and I'm not supposed to pay. So I started insisting, I'm not supposed to pay. What's the money for? But because I was putting it in, I told him, beaucoup l'argent is plenty money. that I'm not even supposed to pay anything. And guess what? The next thing the guy did was to bring out his service pistol and put it on my head. You know, so I ended up giving him 100,000 francs. You know, so, but I was really scared because when the pistol was on my head, he walked me to the back. And you know, the frontier is the desert. Like I said, is a desert. You know, it's a desert because you cross like 4 or 5 hours of desert before you get to, and the wind is extreme and everything. So he took me to the back and he said he was going to kill me, you know. And I just became cold and I was thinking, is this where I was going to die and everything like that? Because those guys, really, they can kill you. There's nothing, because you're just going to be like one of those chaps that is traveling, you know, through Libya, through Algiers and go through water, you know, and everything. But luckily for me, I pleaded. One of them told him, okay, since I was ready to give the 100,000 francs, and that was how they brought me back, but they didn't give me my passport, you know. But luckily for me, the chef d'agence tried to call me. That's when they noticed my mobile phone, and they took that mobile phone from me too. So the man, when I wasn't responding, I told him I was at the frontier. And the coaches, that's the boss, the luxurious boss, at taking my equipment, they don't wait. Once they bring you down, they wait 5 minutes, especially when you're in Nigeria. They just think we're all fraudsters. So they don't want to see a young man working hard and everything. So they had gone with my equipment, and I didn't know where the coach was going to, you know. So luckily the chef d'agence came, and immediately he came. When they saw him, they started saluting and everything, and that was how I was free. And that was when I decided I wasn't going to Agadez anymore. But I finished my mission there, because we call it mission. I finished my mission, I go back to Niamey, stayed like a month, and then I flew back to Nigeria. That's the craziest one that actually made me even stop traveling, because I've traveled. The next one was in Liberia. But let's leave Liberia so that I don't do this thing, but it was crazy too. Thank you.
So those are some very interesting experiences. I mean, we're talking about traveling outside, and it has to do with representation mainly, and the kind of barriers it causes for a lot of youth that are still here. Some of us that have not left Nigeria, some of us that want to leave Nigeria and are looking for opportunities outside Nigeria. And this question is for Ijeoma. Please, can you briefly tell us how education and mentorship, because you work with communities, so you work with different kinds of people in technical roles and people that are trying to get into tech. How would you say education and mentorship has helped to build youth in tech space?
Okay, with education comes exposure, and exposure is a really good thing, because a lot of times people don't know what they are capable of. People don't know that there are these opportunities, there are a lot of opportunities out there that they can leverage on. So that's why you have organizations springing up here and there. We have Chairs in Slums by Tunde Onakoya, and I'm really proud of what he's doing. He goes out to slums in Makoko, Underbridge, you know, trying to bring out these young people, show them that there are things they could actually do with their skills, give them opportunity to good education, access to job opportunities, a lot of things. So, because imagine growing up and you don't know these things, or let's say all your life you've lived under the bridge, or you've lived under some extreme poverty. That's when you start thinking of different things to do. And definitely in a bad way,
Yes.
most times. Yes. So it's, with education comes this opportunity or this ability for you to figure out things you can actually do. Like Mrs. Jamila said in the morning, we have mothers.
Mothers Association.
Yes.
Yahoo.
Mothers
Yahoo
are
mother.
So it's because these people are not informed. So
Yes.
they pride in it. Yeah. So, but with education comes that exposure that I'm talking about. And then another thing is intentional mentorship. So it's not just about educating them. A lot of people, a lot of us here are educated, right? Doesn't mean some of us don't do bad things. I mean, people that hack into people's systems or do all this cyber, they are educated.
Some of them.
Yes, some of them. Because for you to be able to have all those math skills,
That's the thing. What continue?
for you to be able to have all those math skills, it's not something that you just wake up and it falls on you. You have to actually
Okay.
go out
But
of your
okay.
way.
Do you believe in the phrase that school is scam, like school na scam?
No, I
No.
don't. It's not.
Okay, okay. I will not ask you why, but Mayowa, do you believe in the phrase that school na scam?
Well, for me, school now scam is, I really don't believe in it actually, because there was a training I underwent in 2016, 2017, and the guy that trained me is Chinese actually, and we had conversations, and I spoke to him. He was like, oh, he started learning what he came to teach me, that was a BSc, when he left our own equivalent of GS3. So he never saw the 4 years of a university.
Yeah.
But
he was.
I am a BSc holder, and this guy flew all the way from China to Nigeria to come and help me gather more skills to be able to perform what I'm meant to do. Do you get what I'm saying? So I wouldn't see school as come. What I tell most of the young folks I speak to is, you still need to go to school. Because, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of them and they be like, oh, boss, I just want to learn this thing, and I mean, I don't need to waste time, 4 years too long. I'm like, bro, me myself, I went to school. At a point in time, I wanted to drop out of school. Because, okay, before I got into uni, I started writing codes, and when I got to, like, oh, I just waste time. So I met the wrong guys. I started partying, and my GP started dropping drastically. Like, I told my husband, like, I think I'll just drop out and just focus on this thing. But one way or the other, a friend of mine just came. I was like, bro, you know, come class today. We did professor, so mass, this one. Guy, that man is raking, you know. I just sat down. I was like, bro, my parents actually go through a lot to send me to school, and my mom runs a school, so I already understand the law. I was like, that's why I just went back to school. My GP dropped drastically, and at that point in time, I started picking the pieces. Like, guy, you need to do this thing, because being the firstborn and having a whole lot of cousins looking up to me like, oh, uncle, I shouldn't fall their hands. So I was like, okay, you know what, I had to graduate from school. So, but I still tell people, school is not scam. But at the same time, it's always better if you have the opportunity to finish school.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Patrick, what do you think? Yes or no?
For me, I don't think school is scam. I think being educated is a good thing. It will always give you an edge over someone that is uneducated. So I don't think school is scam. I just think that the educational curriculum should evolve. When we're talking about, you know, going to university, staying 4 years or 5 years or whatever amount of years, I just think they should fuse it in with, because when we're coming out, a lot of us now are seeking internships, you know, but what I would suggest that the government do, or the policies to be put in place, is merge when you're in school with something that can actually give them a hands-on training, you know, on that particular thing they're studying, which is why I would use this thing. You know, the apprenticeship scheme for the Igbo guys, where you go to learn after a couple of years, your boss, you know, gives you. I think they should incorporate that maybe into our education. If you're learning a particular, like in school, I did elect. You understand? If not that, my mom, when I was in JSS, you know, had already sent me to go learn how to fix TV. Me and my brother, you understand? So by the time we got into school, I already had flair for electronic things. So but for my brother, he got into school and he did mechanics. So that kind of fizzled out. But today, so if you learn a hands-on thing, even when you get into school, I could write tests. I wrote tests for my people. I partied like, when I was in my first year, I was serious. You understand? I knew things and everything. But I also followed guys. You know, you try to be among and follow guys to parties, Unilag and places like that. But I was still good at what I was doing because I had a practical knowledge even before getting into school that some of my colleagues didn't have. So that's it. Education gives you an edge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think there's also like a contextual angle to this answer, because coming like from where we're from, this is Africa, specifically Nigeria. Everybody that has a certificate is not always, but in many cases, more advantaged than people that do not have certificates. And I'll give an example of some years back when I was just finishing my final year exams, and I applied for a job in Abuja. And then I traveled to Abuja for that interview. We had the interview. They were asking me questions. I was like, what is this? I was giving them back to back. Everything was fun. We were laughing. We were having fun. And at the end of the day, they're like, oh, I did really well, but then they'll consider giving me an internship. And I'm like, no, I've passed internship level. I cannot do internship. Like, I'm looking for like a full-time position. And they're like, but you don't have your school certificate. You don't have your NYC certificate. And I was disappointed because, for a tech organization, it was like an ISP. Why would you be asking for my certificate? But that's how it is across Nigeria in many organizations. So we know that we want to be as advanced as some of these countries, but we also need to consider where we are and what we are looking at. It's like saying you want to become president tomorrow and you are skipping NYSC. Why? Or you want to be a minister and you're skipping these fundamental things that will build up the blocks for you. So yes, I think I agree that school is not scam. And to the audience, do you think that school is scam? Okay, so we're running out of time. I'm going to just fast track to our next question. Thank you, school is not scam. Okay, so what do you think that, this is for Mayowa now. What do you think the government and private institutions are playing in trying to change the narrative that we have about youth, especially in the tech ecosystem? Because I know that in Nigeria, we put a lot of, not pressure, but like we blame a lot of things on the government. When, they always say that if one man can change his home, it extends to the surroundings. Now, what do you think the government is? I'm not going to ask what the government can do because I feel like our government is already doing. We have the Minister of Communications. He has come up with 3MMT, training 3 million people in IT. We have our boss here from Cisco that has opportunities for us every time. And then we have like collaborations between NITDA, we have NCC, we have different organizations with schemes. But like, what can you share with the audience here? Because as much as these things are out there, accessibility is an issue. I need us to be able to point out some of these initiatives that people can look out for and tap into, whether by the government, by private institutions, or any other opportunities that you know.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm actually a huge fan of Minister Bosun Tijani. From days of Van and the likes here, before he became minister. Even though sometimes I drag him on Twitter, but I'm a huge fan of his. So I think the 3MTT is actually a very good initiative, and I think what still needs to be done is we need to look into a way of forming clusters of, we need to find a way of putting talents together, then form a cluster for them to be able to show their skills, basically, then also for them to be able to learn and give them the right mentorship. So not everybody needs to come to tech. People want to go into tech, people want to probably do arts and crafts, you want to do music, you want to do... So I think the government still needs to put in more effort to give that enabling environment for people to be able to, excel. Then also for the private sector as well. For the private sector, one thing I've noticed mainly is they really don't give opportunities to the younger ones. People come out of uni, they want to try and get internship and all that, and the next thing you're asking, oh, what do you know? Who do you know, who do you know, who do you know? But I've been opportune to work in an establishment that really doesn't care about who you know. In the past, and when I speak to younger ones, I'm very intrigued when I get into their thought process, and because I've had the opportunity to actually recruit people that just finished out of uni, fresh out of uni, fresh out of NYC. And just be like, okay, HR sends the CV. I'm like,
are you hearing?
So HR sends CV. I'm like, well, this guy's CV looks quite interesting. Oh, okay. You know what? Shortlist this guy. And I see someone that has maybe like 5 years experience. I'm like, no, don't worry, do this guy. This guy is still okay.
Thank you.
So, and when you start speaking to those guys, you'll be like, okay, what do you know about this? You'll be like, okay, when I read so on Reddit, this. I'm like, okay, yeah, quite interesting. And you see, on the long run, when you start talking to them, when they come into the system, they make work easier for you. I have a bunch of my colleagues here, my ex, where I was before. And, when they come in, you get into their thought process. They tend to make work much more easier for you. And so I think private sector needs to look into that and create maybe more incubation centers. We need to have maybe like incubation hubs. Then the government also needs to support, like what the UK government is doing with Tech Nation. We need to have something like that also in Nigeria, in fact, in West Africa generally, because also when I leave Nigeria, I travel to a lot of West African countries I've lived in and worked, and one thing I always do is I try to interact with locals, one, for security reason, then two, I just like getting to the people's thought process. People are quite younger, like, okay, yo, what do you like doing? And when they start telling you the ideas they have, you'll be like, wow. And like, okay, so what's slowing you down? They're like, chef, La John, like,